So now we talk about how do we buy magazines? And here are some of the areas that need to be considered as we pull together a buy. And by the way, concerning buys, having worked in a media specialist agency or two, I actually worked in an agency called DeWitt Media, which was owned and founded and run by a gentleman by the name of Gene DeWitt, who was a brilliant media guy and a delightful guy. And I bought out of home for him. I also was in charge of new business for the agency. And nothing gets bought until the client is authorized, has approved a plan, overall media plan, of course, and then authorized a specific buy with dollar amounts and targets and goals and what you're going to do, et cetera, et cetera. And the client signs that, and nothing is done until the client signs that piece of paper, that contract, authorizing the agency to start spending money on the client's behalf. But most of these decisions many of them would have been made before the authorization. They would be included in the authorization. So are we buying national, regional, or local? Of course, who's our target is where we start, right? Who and where and when for magazines, or just about any kind of medium. And as I said before, positioning in the magazine is very, very important. So once you've decided you're going to buy a certain month, say, of a certain national magazine, you look at the rates. The magazines publish a rate card. No one wants to pay the rate card price. Everybody wants a deal. And some magazine companies deal more than others. And every media company gets a reputation among the buyers about whether they make deals or not. But a key point of bargaining is where you're going to be in the magazine. How many times are you going to appear in the magazine? If it's a monthly magazine, are you going to buy 12 months, 6 months? And I will say that usually if you are going to commit to making a buy in a magazine, you want to be in front of that audience more than once. You want to start to be an established presence and be associated with that magazine. So you're usually looking at some kind of length of schedule. Full page ad, half page ad, quarter page ad. You pay for the price, and the bigger you are, the better your stopping power, of course. Are you in black and white or color? Most people are in color these days. Here's an important point we really haven't touched on yet very much with any of our talk about different media. Out-of-home companies don't normally offer a lot of value added, but there are ways to get bonus if you know what to ask for, bonus locations, or leave your ad up longer than you bought. And there are always ways to negotiate something other than price to get a value out of your media buy. Newspapers, maybe not so much, but magazines have traditionally been very open to value-added buys. For instance, I can make a buy in, I'm just going to say Architectural Digest, okay, published by Condé Nast, very elegant, upscale shelter magazine. And if I commit to a 12-month schedule of full-page ads, maybe double page, maybe a spread, part of my negotiation will be, well, what else are you going to do for me other than give me the ads in the magazine and give me the positioning I want? Now, what else can you do? Well, maybe Architectural Digest does exhibitions in different major cities. Maybe they do it what's called a designer house, okay, where the magazine would take over some house that's for sale, some very elegant home, and have interior designers come in and design each room with all the vendors, the range makers, the refrigerator makers, the fabric makers, the chair companies. Everyone donates their goods, and then wealthy people from the area are invited in to see the house and see all the goods and everything else. And so maybe I get some kind of special placement, or my product does, in some of these designer homes. Architectural Digest has a huge database of subscribers, so maybe I'm included in some emails to the database in addition to the ad. So that's called value added. And a creative media buyer who really knows magazines and print, is typically going to be very good at this and put together some very interesting programs that kind of break through the usual advertising situation. You can do sampling. Obviously, if you're a fragrance, you can do pop-ups or inserts. What are you going to do for me on your website? What can be included here as part of the buy? And then, as I said before, can I have access to your customer database where you could help me do some emailings to get out to more people that way? So value added, key part of the negotiation. Now, in addition to trade associations that do marketing for the media type, pretty much every medium has a measurement association. And we saw what it was with Out of Home, that new fancy name that I can never remember. It used to be called the Traffic Audit Bureau. But this is the ABC for magazines, the Audit Bureau. And let's go to their website. Audit Bureau Circulations. What is ABC? And usually, just as with the trade association, you can see here in the first paragraph, voluntary organization consisting of publishers, advertisers, and advertising agencies as members. Okay, and what they're doing, as you see right here, is they're developing audit procedures to certify the circulation figures of publications that are members of ABC. So, we talk about the measurement of different media, what can be measured, okay? And with magazines, I can measure circulation, and I can have it audited by the Audit Bureau of Circulation so that an advertiser knows that that is the right number. I can't measure how many people. There's no clicks to capture with magazines, but there is this type of measurement. Whoop, here we are back on this darn thing. Sorry, everybody. Okay. All right, so now let's just take a look at some of the top magazines in the U.S. by circulation. And remember I said before, AARP, the American Association of Retired Persons, which everyone automatically qualifies for at the age of 55, even though that isn't typically a retirement age. That's when it starts for the AARP. And once you buy a membership to the AARP, you get the magazine, which comes out every month, free. Every member of the AARP, so all the oldsters in the country, subscribe. So it's 24 million people, 55 and older, get this magazine. So it's a huge circulation. And then their bulletin, which also comes out every month, which is on a different kind of paper stock and tends to be more sort of little blurbs about health and things like that. That also has about the same circulation. And then we go down to Costco, where Costco members get the magazine. And then we go to an actual magazine that people have to decide to subscribe to. And the first one is what's called the Women's Magazine, Better Homes and Gardens, 7.6 million circulation, and it's published by Meredith. We'll talk about Meredith a little bit more a little bit later. But it's a company where its headquarters are in Iowa, and it started as publishing magazines for farm families and farmers. And then we've got Hearst down here. Got some more Meredith. Time Inc. says Time Warner, Time Warner, Time Warner. These are data from a couple of years ago, and there isn't any more Time Warner, everybody. So Meredith actually took up a number of their publications. So here we have some of the bigger magazines in the U.S. And then let's just open this up, because we always like to take an international perspective on everything at FIT. And let's just take a look at some of the best-selling magazines in the world. This is a couple of years old, and I apologize, 2017. Well, People's got a heck of a readership, 45 million adults. It's a weekly. Family Circle, very big. National Geographic, globally particularly, 6.8 million units, 3.5 million in New York. Good Housekeeping, another so-called women's magazine. Reader's Digest, Better Homes and Gardens, Game Informer, number 4. How about that? Then we have AARP. Oh, and here, this one wasn't even on the list that I had previously, but this is worldwide and available in over 100 languages in 19 different countries. 55 million copies are circulated every 2 months. And then the Watchtower. So actually, these magazines are the most popular in the world, and these are English-based sort of magazines, but many of them translated to other languages. I'm just going to try to click off this, please. Thank you. And here are some of the bigger U.S. companies. Condé Nast we talked about, Vogue magazine, GQ, Vanity Fair, The New Yorker. Condé Nast just moved their corporate headquarters from Times Square down to the new World Trade Center a year or two ago. Condé Nast is the sleekest of luxury. Architectural Digest is theirs. Luxury publishers that tend to be upscale, beautiful magazines. Condé Nast was kind of late to get to the online world. They're playing catch up to some degree. They've had some problems. It's a private company, but still some wonderful magazines. Hearst is William Randolph Hearst, and newspapers and then publishing magazines. And Hearst also owns TV stations, a lot of other things. Cosmopolitan is one of Hearst's magazines. Meredith is the company that started in Iowa. Very successful. A lot of sort of middle-of-the-road women's magazines, kind of conservative lifestyle magazines. Headquarters, as I say, in Iowa. And some graffiti artists crossed out Time Inc. because it doesn't exist anymore. Time magazine was bought by the gentleman on the left here, who happens to be the founder of a company called Salesforce.com. His name is Mark Benioff, and Salesforce.com we study in my database class a bit. It's a B2B CRM platform. I hope that means something to you. So it's a customer relationship, sales, revenue sort of platform for people in the business-to-business sales world. He went ahead and bought, almost as a vanity project, Time magazine, very much as Jeff Bezos bought the Washington Post. Paid, owned, and earned. We have been talking about paid. Owned. People do take over and sponsor different issues, but I think the main factor here, other than paid, is earned. And this is, PR. This is, you've studied, I think many of you, public relations, and this is PR agencies approaching editors at magazines with news about the products and services that they represent, either real news or manufactured news, and then trying to get the coverage, which is wonderful. I mean, if you get the implied endorsement of the magazine that way by being included in content, you can't ask for more than that. To reach a loyal magazine reader as part of the editorial and be recommended by the editorial staff, if you're a product or a service, pretty wonderful. Magazines and PR we talked about. I'm not going to get into sponsorship too much. I'm going to stop here, and we're almost to the end of our lecture. and we'll take up in a second.